Okay, I think we're getting ready to go here. All right, I think I have this working now. I am so sorry for all of the different drama. Anyway, I will wait for some people to get back into the room. Let me tweet this again. Had some technical issues, but I am alive now for Slasher. I'm just tweeting it out for anyone who was here and left. Oh my God, there you guys are. Okay, so I'm so sorry. I don't know why this keeps happening. Basically, this system that I'm using cut off my audio, but who cares? So I was very excited to do this chat because Slasher, I think, is the most well-done horror series on TV. If you're in the room, say hello. I will give you a shout out. Hello to Thomas, Reese, Devil Dan, R. Espinoza. Thank you guys so much for being here. Anyway, I think it is so well done. If you follow me on Twitter, you should. If you don't, because that's where I give you guys all the updates about what I'm watching, why you haven't seen me in a couple of months, what's coming up next. Oh my God, Ralph, yes, I am alive. I am alive. Honestly, there's been so many things going on that no one cares about probably, but more than anything, there hasn't been anything on TV that was important to me. Important enough for me to be invested enough to make a video or a live chat. But you guys know how much I like Slasher. I love it so much. So I said a bunch of this stuff earlier when there was no audio, and I'm going to repeat it. So for me, Slasher Season 2 was just phenomenal. I loved all the twists in it, and right up until the very end, I could not figure out who the killer was. So I knew that Slasher 3 had some really big shoes to fill. Now, typically with horror series, the first season is amazing, and then they just go downhill from there. I don't see this at all with Slasher. I felt like Season 1 was pretty good. Now, I thought Season 2 was way better than Season 1, even though I don't really have any major complaints with Season 1. Season 3, I'm not going to say it was better than Season 2, but I think it was right up there. And I want to get into what I really loved about it, and then I'm going to let you guys talk because I will monopolize the whole conversation if not. Now, I didn't figure out who the killer was in this season until Season 7, but if it's a Episode 7, but if it's a well-done horror series, it's the least likely people who you need to look at, obviously. If it's a poorly done horror series, it's super obvious who the person is, and then you've lost me and I don't care. If you make it someone who's obvious, I just don't care. So when we were getting into Episode 7, I was starting to think about Jen. I was starting to think about Connor, her brother. I was starting to think about Sadia. Didn't really think they would go there with Sadia, and they didn't, but there was a great twist with her at the end. And I was also starting to think maybe the detective's like assistant, which would have been really lame because we really didn't know him. But, you know, it's kind of our central characters that we need to look at and the people who seemed super nice. Now, when we got the reveal of Connor, I was kind of like, that came in Episode 7, and I was kind of like, I'm okay with it. I'm not blown away. It wasn't super obvious. It wasn't super difficult. But I think what really sealed the deal for me was Episode 8. I think that is kind of where the show has been shining in the last 2 seasons, where they give you these crazy twists and crazy add-on reveals in the finale, okay? Now, I had been thinking all along this season there were probably 2 killers. I thought we were going to go that route. And I was super happy to see that we did. Now, as we got closer to they slowly gave us the information that Jen, Connor's sister, was involved. And at first, I was going to accept the fact that she just knew that he was the killer and she was helping him to cover it up. And I was very happy with that. When I was watching that, I was like, I'm good with that. When that revelation came about, I was like, this season's solid. This is good. But to me, probably the two things that stick out to me about this season was, number one, when Jen went crazy and showed her crazy side and stabbed Amber to death in the most insane, brutal way, that was when the show elevated for me. I was like, okay, they went there. They're not just saying, she seemed like the sweetest, small, nice little girl. And that goes with their whole stereotype theme, which was the theme of this season, which we'll get into here in a little bit, and also the social media theme. But to see her flip, to see her character totally flip her attitude, you gotta love that in a horror series. And I loved when she went nuts on Amber, even though we didn't really see Amber's body in that scene. It was still really good. But that point of the show and the very end, when we found out that Sadia was the person who made basically all of this stuff happened because she made that tweet. She retweeted, I assumed it was sort of like a version of Twitter, the tweet that went viral, which exposed Connor and Jen's mom. And it was just like an F you to Jen, basically saying, hey, guess what? I'm not this super nice girl. I retweeted it. Now, I think the fact that she retweeted it, I don't have a problem with that because, look, this woman was insane. She was getting laughs, getting her kicks off of, someone being murdered. So I don't really think that if people are spreading that around that this woman is, sick enough to film this and put this on social media. I don't really think that makes Sadia a bad person, but it sure was funny. And it was something that I doubt anybody predicted. Okay. But in my mind, that doesn't make her a bad person or anything. I did like her attitude at the end, and it almost made me think if this was a continuing series where we had the same characters coming back for a season 4, like, I could almost see her being a killer, but that's not the way this show works. Someone here, Tyler, is mentioning the teacher. Now, the teacher for me was one victim I didn't really understand, and she was my first choice for killer. I thought her kill was the best of this season. The dissection was top-notch and creative. I don't know if you guys have ever seen anything like that before. I've seen a lot of horror. I don't remember seeing that type of kill before. I was really excited by that. I was like, that's good. Now, I thought that was a really brutal kill, and I know I've talked to some people on Twitter about it, and we're not quite sure why she deserved to be brutalized so much. All I can come up with is the fact that, she knew of the situations going on about the mother, and people harassing her in the apartment, etc. And she really didn't do anything to help their mom. But I feel like she was less complicit than the others who were killed. I mean, I feel like every person who was, obviously there was some mental issues here with Connor and Jen as well as their mom. And I felt like, some of the people that they killed off, were they really terrible people? Obviously, like Cassidy was a terrible person, but some of the people, did they really deserve these brutal deaths? Nah, but I enjoyed it, and it was okay. But the teacher was one that I will question. Now, if you have more of a reason why you think she deserved to be killed and to be killed in that way, let me know. Obviously, as Solomon says, Dan, played by Dean McDermott. Dean plays the most vile people in this show. I remember him from, I think, season 1. He was like a terrible, despicable person. If you didn't know, he is Tori Spelling's husband. Tori Spelling was on 90210. And gosh, I don't know if the reality show is still on, but I used to be bored and watch that. It wasn't like I watched it because I liked it, but just to say, he seems like a pretty nice guy. It seems also like everyone on this show is Canadian. It's filmed in Canada. He's Canadian, so that kind of makes sense. He made me laugh. He was a terrible, despicable person in this, series, and I would have been totally fine with him to be brutally murdered because he deserved it. But I also think they wanted to do a turnaround with his character because you saw him joining forces with, I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head, at the end when they were like fighting for their lives and also like joining forces with Sadia. Like you saw him see people in a different light, and that's why they wanted to use his character in that way. I'm going to get to some of your comments. I have way more to say. Nat is saying that Violet was iconic. You were kind of sad to see her die. Violet is played by Paula Brancotti. Also, if you guys are active on social media, I've been so impressed with the people who were involved in this show, from the EP to the show writers to the actors and actresses. They will respond to you, and some of them even follow me, which is so cool because how many shows out there care about their fans to the point of getting involved in a nice way and talking to us and reciprocating our love for the show. I just think that is so, so cool. Angel. I almost said it was Angel. I was going to say, oh my God, am I calling him his real name or his name on the show? I couldn't remember. So Angel and Dan, yes. So Paula, I've just followed her since I think last season. I think she may have been in all seasons. I know she was in last season too. But I loved that character. I loved her. She was like a sadistic YouTuber, and I just love the overlying theme of social media this season. I found that really cool. I'm sure you guys did too. Paula definitely deserved a terrible death. She was despicable. So I knew that she had something terrible coming for her, and I was excited for that. But I love that character. That made me so happy. Let me get to some more of your comments now. So Devil Dan is asking if there will be a season 4. I really hope so. I saw someone on Twitter talking to the people involved in the show saying, like, you know, Netflix doesn't promote this show the way they do like Black Mirror or some of the other shows. And I don't know if it's just not as popular or if it's just not getting the ratings on Netflix as some of those other shows. I mean, I think the other, it's not really horror. It's kind of more like sci-fi. Black Mirror, I think, is exceptional. And I think, in my opinion, like Black Mirror and Slasher are some of the very best shows that Netflix does. And I do agree that Slasher doesn't really get the play, the promotion that some of the big name shows get on Netflix. And that's sad because I think it's so good. And for those of you, and I tweeted this out as soon as I finished the season, for those of you who are true horror fans, for those of you who watch all kinds of horror movies and horror shows, you know how many people screw up horror stuff. You know, they make the killings, people are just killing people for no reason. You know, sometimes the killer no one really cares about and they're just like a person in a mask and you never really know anything about them. A lot of times it's super easy if we're trying to figure out who the killer is. It's like super, super obvious. And you know, there's so much that Slasher does right. Not only do they have meaning behind, I don't like I mean, as much as I like, and this is truly a Slasher series, even though that's the name, I don't care. And I like gory kills. I like, you know, inventive kills. But if that's all there is to your movie or to your show, just being like super gory and inventive, you know, I do like Saw. I feel like Saw 1 was really good. Saw has very gory kills, you know, inventive kills, you know, very creative. But I feel like Saw has never been as good. Saw 1 to me was the best, you know, and it's hard to live up to that. And to get better than Saw 1. But as far as this show, it's not just the shock value. It's not just we're just killing people in crazy ways to be crazy. You know, they had 2 killers who had reasons for doing what they were doing. They thought they were justified and they had a whole, you know, everything was connected. Everything made sense. They explained everything at the end, you know, and not only that, this whole season was about stereotyping people. As soon as they made the statement, this should have been your clue if you didn't catch on by then, but as soon as the statement was made that all serial killers are white, you should have known it wasn't going to be a white male this time around if you didn't already get to that conclusion. So they're also kind of sending a message to the horror world, whereas, you know, for a long time, the genre of horror was very stereotypical. Everyone in the movie was white and the killer was always a white man, you know, and this really mixed things up with having a super diverse cast. And not only that, they stereotype people within the show as here's someone who's the nice girl and here's another nice girl. They would never do bad things. They would never retweet something like this. They would never be a murderer, you know. Connor seemed like a super nice guy. And I started to get really suspicious of him after like that brutal murder of the annoying kid with the blonde hair who like had a crush or something on Sadia, because I know that I knew that Connor had a crush on her, and like just to see him, although here's the thing, I don't know if Sadia killed him or if Jen killed him, but in my mind, Sadia, I don't know if Connor killed him or Jen killed him, but in my mind it was Connor because he was like, didn't want that guy hitting on the girl that he cared about. Okay, hi show, thank you so much for being here. Thomas thinks the Druid's outfit is one of the best so far. To me, I would definitely got some Scream vibes from it, but the mask was different. But I thought it was cool, and I was down for it. Tyler says, you think this season had the most creative kills? Definitely. And I think they're always going to try with each season, and I hope they're trying for a 4th season. But they're always going to try to top themselves, which sometimes I feel like that's where horror movies and horror shows get into trouble, because they can't top themselves. Now, so far, I think Slasher has probably been, let's be honest here, I think it's the only horror series or, you know, anything in the horror genre, including movies, that is consistently good. You know, it's not going downhill because they're trying to outdo themselves from before. They're still producing quality content, which is really hard, okay? You know how that is. Anybody who watches a lot of horror knows how hard it is to have something great come out, whether it's a movie or a series, and have it be excellent, and then try to follow that up with sequels. And a lot of times, like almost every time, the sequel is never as good. But now I want to take more of your guys' comments. I know I missed a lot of them earlier, so if you said something that I did not read or didn't respond to, just say it again. I just wanted to give out a lot of my thoughts, which I still probably have more. I'm trying to stay on topic of this show. If you guys follow me on Twitter and like have different questions about different shows, please, either message me or tweet at me, just because it's kind of annoying sometimes for people who watch this later if I'm talking about other shows that are not slasher. So I do see some of those comments. I appreciate it, but I'm just going to wait to either discuss those within that show or on Twitter if it's something I don't no longer cover. Yes, the VR scene was really good. And it was sad with Amy's storyline, especially with her history with her family dying in that wreck and everything. That was hard. I don't really think she's a terrible person either. I mean, I feel like obviously some of the people who were murdered were just straight up trash people, but not everybody was. Bailey's asking what I would like for season 4 to be about. That's really hard to say. I think that every season has been really diverse, and I love that, like diverse topics, and I absolutely love that. So I'm just up for them to surprise me. I'm up for them to be inventive and not do a stereotypical scenario here, like, camp or something like that. And they didn't do that. I think that's really cool. Solomon's wanting to know what was my favorite kill. I think the best kill was the teacher, Kaylee, I believe was her name. I was just like, wow, props to them. Like, they went there, and that was just good. And personally, I've never seen anything like that. I'm hoping that there isn't anything like that out there in popular horror movies or shows, because I want them to be like the first ones that came up with that. Show the detectives were the detectives were dumb. Very. But all of the kill, I have no issue with any of the kills. I especially loved when Angel killed Connor, because I was just so disgusted with him. And when he was like pushing him in the fire, I was wondering if he was burning himself. And then we found out, he like really burned himself to the point where he freaking died. I'm going to go back up here and see some more comments that I missed. So Ralph was saying that season 3 had a weak start, strong middle, good end. The first episode didn't blow me away. I got into it pretty quickly. Honestly, I remember the second season, I was like, I don't really like this idea that they're out here in the cabin and whatever. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, because it was really different than season 1. But I think it took me a couple episodes on that one. But then I was like, oh my God, this is so good, especially the ending. So with this season, I went into it like thinking, it might take me a little bit to get into this, but I know the payoff is going to be great. And it was, because I have all faith and trust in slasher. And that feels so good to know you're watching a quality show and know you're not going to be mad by the time it ends. I didn't know if I was going to love it, but I knew that I wasn't going to be furious. And it's just like a lot of the shows that I watch, things have like either been canceled or they've ended, or there's just even some of the shows that I've watched for a few years and I cover on here are kind of disappointing. They just start to get disappointing after a while, and it just starts to like feel like I don't even want to do videos or chats about them because I'm not that excited about them anymore. But I just absolutely love slasher, and I just think that makes me just so happy to get on here and talk about it with you guys, because I'm super, super passionate about it. Solomon says, you love that every single character on the show served a purpose. No characters were wasted in the storyline. Absolutely. I think that's one of the things they do really well, and that's what I was talking about earlier, where they're not just killing people just for the sake of like body count or like how cool can we make their death, but then you know nothing about them. Like everything was connected and tied together, and they just do everything right with the series. I really think so. I mean, especially the twists in the end. I mean, I just loved when Sadia said she was the one that reposted their mom's video of, I guess, Kit or whatever. I was like, oh my God, like I was already in love with the season by then, because I loved the twist on Jen's character, and I loved seeing her freak out and murder Amber. Amber I thought was super annoying, by the way. I think that woman was in last season too, but I was loving it so much, and I was already to the point where I was excited and I knew I was going to have great things to say about it. But then when Sadia gave us that twist, I was like, Okay, they've done a really great thing here. This is really great. Thomas says, you're so happy with Charlie's death. Yes. Bailey says, you absolutely loved how the characters had a purpose and the ending really shocked you. Yes. So, but saying all of that and me being super excited about the season, was there anything that you didn't like? Something you would do differently if you had written the show, anything like that? And it doesn't hurt my feelings if you didn't like this season or you had an issue with it, let me know. Like, it doesn't bother me. Obviously, I didn't write this show. So if you didn't like it or you had a problem with it, it's totally fine. Fine and fun. Not really fun, but fine. So Show says the dissection was done in the, I never can pronounce his name, but it's the guy from This Is Us, Milo, whatever, the dad from This Is Us, movie Pathology. So I've never seen that movie. Was that a horror movie? And that makes me sad if so, but Solomon says that's exactly why you prefer anthology series. The storyline never overstays its welcome. Yes. So this show is a little bit like American Horror Story, but I don't know if there's any carryover. I think there might be. I think there might be little bits and pieces that they throw in there from the other seasons, although I remember reading something about how season 2 had little things from season 1 in it. I think I read that. Maybe I'm making that up, actually. I don't know. Let me know if you've ever read that there's like a little like, what do they call that? There's a word for that when they throw little things in to like just for the super hardcore fans to see. But now that I've said that, I think maybe I'm getting that confused with a different show. So I might be wrong. But I do like the fact that honestly, anyone can watch this season and have no knowledge of the previous 2 seasons and be totally fine. I love that because I personally feel this way, and I know other people do too. Like when someone tells you there's an amazing show out there on Netflix or whatever, if it's been on for like 4 or 5 seasons and I need to watch all of those to catch up to this latest season, Easter eggs, that's the word. You know, if I need to catch up on 5 or 6 seasons in order to watch this season that everyone's excited about, I know some people really love that, but for me, no, I don't have that kind of time. So, you know, it's so cool that anybody can jump into this. And I actually told a friend to watch this last year, and he kept talking about season 1. He was like, oh, season 1 was so incredible, blah, blah, blah. And then he started saying more things, and I was like, wait, you were watching season 2. So he had like no idea. He just started watching it and thought he was watching season 1. He was watching season 2, but it didn't matter. And then he went back and watched season 1. So it really did matter. And he wasn't like lost or confused because he started season 2. Nat says you feel like the kills in broad daylight were a little unrealistic. Well, I mean, if we're looking at it from being real, there was probably a lot of it that was unrealistic. I mean, you know, some of the kills I don't know. Connor did look pretty in shape. I don't know. But some of them, it was just like it requires some crazy strength to like chop someone's head off and whatever. And I'm just kind of, So I don't really look at it as it needs to be super realistic. I mean, if it's super unrealistic, then it's silly because it's not sci-fi, but I can let it slide a little bit. Levere, I'm probably saying your name wrong, loved it when the abusive husband died. Yeah, he was a total jerk. Actually, Glenn, I've really been around, but and had some different things going on in my life. But really and truly, there hasn't been a show on that I wanted to cover because I'm not doing The Perfectionist. I did see a question about that, and I'll quickly say I'm not covering that. There's really been nothing that I was interested in covering, but Big Little Lies is coming back, and I'll be doing videos on that, and I want to do something on Black Mirror once I finish that season. Devil says, Devil Dan says, don't know if it's just me, but when the druid was shown, like before the killer reveal, that they looked quite big and tall. And then when the killers were revealed, they were smaller. I've definitely seen this happen in other shows like Scream or the movie Scream, where obviously they have like stunt doubles and whatever wearing the costume. It's really not those people probably. So that's another thing where I'm going to let it slide. Probably the people in the costumes were sometimes not those people, or maybe never those people, except for like at the end where we saw like Connor and I think Jen wearing the outfits. But I'll let that slide. I'm going to let that slide for them. Solomon says you loved Angel and Violet, but Violet's husband ruined both of their storylines. That type of plot is so overdone in modern media. Yeah. I just liked her, and I liked how terrible she was and how she was just kind of kind of making funny. If you guys watch a lot of YouTube or you are a YouTuber, you can really appreciate her. She was just, seriously, there's so many people like her in our world today, like obsessed. Would do anything for views and sponsorships and whatever. And I just thought her character was everything. I loved it so much. That was just so awesome. And like, what a cool role to play. I would have loved to play that. That was so cool. Yes, and I will definitely be covering American Horror Story. But I feel like, and I know a lot of people have been mentioning American Horror Story in this chat, to me, Slasher is not similar to American Horror Story besides the fact that it's an anthology, because it is a straight up serial killer, slashing, killing people show. And I really like that. And as much as I do like American Horror Story, I kind of prefer this because I am like an old school, like I like the old school horror, but this is so much better. Like, I've watched Nightmare on Elm Street and all that stuff, and really there's nothing to that, and it's just mindless killing and silly at this point. I don't want to go back and watch those, but I like that theme, that overall theme. To me, like, one of my favorite movies of all time was Scream, and to me this is kind of like an extension of Scream, and that Scream was just inventive and new at the time and fabulous. You think so? Tyler thinks American Horror Story is more horror than slasher. Yeah, I see that. To me, it's kind of sci-fi in some seasons, and it's also, a different type of horror, definitely. But I prefer less sci-fi for the most part in shows. If you guys have watched me for a while, you would know that. So I don't want slasher to become sci-fi. I don't want things super unrealistic happening, and I appreciate that it's not that. It's more like Scream. I'm a huge Scream fan. You guys know that. I like the MTV show, but I think this is done better. Personally, I think Slasher the show is done better than MTV's Scream was done. I don't know. I've heard so much, like, I get tweets and comments all the time about MTV Scream and then Scream Queens, and Glenn's asking if I think it's coming back. I don't know. Scream, as we know, Scream Queens was terrible last time around, so I'm not even sure if I would give that a try again. But as far as MTV Scream, I don't have any information. I know a lot of people have asked me. I wish I did. I wish people at MTV or whoever talked to me and told me what was going on with that. But as of now, I feel like that is never coming back. That's just my opinion. But yeah, this American Horror Story 1984 sounds very promising, and I'm excited for that. Devil Dan says, did my mind for who I thought the killer was change after each episode? No, early on I thought it was the teacher Kaylee, and the reason I did was because she seemed kind of to, be against the bad guys. She was giving speeches to like Jen and Sadia about like how people were being terrible. I think she was talking about Cassidy. You could tell she didn't like her. And I felt like, okay, this makes sense. She's like killing people who are terrible people, like kind of like a karma killer. And I was like, that totally makes sense. Plus, she wasn't a likely suspect, so that's kind of why I picked her. But then after she was killed, I was like, well, I don't know. I'm going to go back to my rule of horror movies. It's the least likely people who are going to probably be the killers unless it's a terrible horror show or movie and it's obvious. So I knew this was a smart series, so I figured it had to be some of the least likely people. So I started looking at Sadia, Connor, and Jen. So I thought that it was kind of easy to figure out who the killers were this season. And I wanted there to be two, and there were, and I liked something I wouldn't have mind seeing was I wanted to see, like, and kind of like in Scream the movie, if you've seen that, I would like to have seen who did Connor kill and who did Jen kill. I liked to go back and see that. I think that would have been a cool, like, add-on. But, that's okay. Nat says something you think Slasher misses is the characters being scared. Like, there was a brutal serial killer and no one was really that afraid. Even Sadia wasn't very scared. To me, she wasn't scared until the end. And I think when things started clicking with her and she realized, like, Connor had all the keys to all the apartments, and she was like, okay, she figured out that's why it was really hot in there and everything, and she smelled burning flesh, basically. Then I thought that actress did a really, really, really good job of looking super scared. I agree here with R. Espinoza saying when Jen made the statement to Sadia about Kaylee, the teacher, and she said she's not nice, she's fake nice. I still have some questions about why they thought this woman was so terrible, but basically they just assumed everyone in the apartment needed to die. Everyone was terrible because they even if they did nothing to like help their mom. And they just saw that like Sadia was a really sweet girl and the only one who cared about them because she was their friend. Plus that guy had a crush on her and whatever. So I think their rationale was like everyone deserves to die, even though some people really didn't do anything to them or anything to their mom. If they did nothing, a lack of doing anything, that's enough. Like you need to die. Tyler says you figured out that Jin was one of the druids. The dissection scene with the frog, then with the body, but you didn't really want it to be that easy. Yeah, again, if you want me to give you a critique on this season, I would say that the killer reveal, especially Connor, wasn't super shocking. We didn't have that many people who were just the least likely suspects were 3 people, in my opinion, and I would throw the detective in there as a wild card, but that would have been really dumb if it was her. But we didn't have that many people to choose for them to select if they're going to go with least likely. And I really think season 2 did a better job as far as the killer reveal. I think that was way more shocking than this season. But again, I'm not going to go as far as saying season 2 was better. I just think if I had to critique it, that's my critique. But I loved the finale of the season. I loved the additional twists, especially the one at the very end. And for me, that wrapped it up to have me saying, I like this. I saw someone tweeting out, when I was on episode 7 and I got the Connor reveal, I saw someone tweeting they were really unhappy with the reveal. And I was like, man, I kind of feel that way. I feel that way. I feel like it's kind of obvious. But the way if it had just ended with that, I would have been like, I liked it, but I didn't love it. But after episode 8, that made me really like it a lot. So I to me feel like it's on the same level as season 2, even though there's a few differences. I felt like season 2 was a little bit slower to get into at the beginning than season 3. So that's my critique of season 2. But yeah, overall, I really, really loved it. Again, I just want to thank everyone for being here. If you are watching this and we are no longer live, I'll be checking all my comments. So please leave a comment. I'll still comment back. And just for those of you curious about what's going on in the future with the channel, Big Little Lies starts in like a week, I believe. So I'm going to be able to do that by episode since no one knows what's going to happen. I wasn't able to do that last time because it was a book and someone always comes on here and is a jerk and spoils those kind of things for me. I think that actually happened when I was trying to do that, but I'll be able to do this weekly because it's a brand new plot line. And I also will do something on Black Mirror probably after I finish all of the episodes again because of spoilers and you know, people just do what they do. And I don't want to be spoiled. There's only a few shows I really love, and I refuse to let mean people do that to me. And of course, American Horror Story when that comes back, but that won't be until the fall. Nat says you were sad that Jen was the killer. You liked her. I liked her too, and honestly, there were times when I really liked Connor, and I was like, oh, he's a really good guy, and I could totally see him with Sadia, and I love that. Of course, they were the bad guys, you know? But yeah, I thought it was a really good twist. But yes, I just think that as far as actresses go and actors, I loved how Jen was such a sweet person. The person who played her was just so, you know, she did a great job of being like this sweet, nice girl for the whole series until the end. I thought her switch was just a really great display of acting when she switched and just her eyes got really crazy and when she stabbed Amber 1,000 times. That was just... I know this is not the type of show where people get awards or get nominated, but she gets in the horror awards, I want to give that to like best flip of a character. I would give that to her. I think her real name is Mercedes. I thought that was just really good. I like that. And I thought the woman who played Sadia did really, really well too. You know, everyone does a good job. There was not anyone who I felt like just seemed, you know, that was a sucky actor, you know. And a lot of these people, I've never even seen them before. Now, maybe if you live in Canada, you know these people. They may be famous in Canada. I don't know. Like I said, I know Dean because of Tori Spelling. And I know some of these people because I've seen them on other seasons of Slasher. But, you know, I think there were a lot of new people this season. Honestly, I've never seen them before. And I know some of these people were on Degrassi. I've never watched that, but I believe Drake was on that too. And Aaron Martin, who is like the showrunner, the guy who writes the show, I guess, or no, the EP, maybe. I hate to screw this up. He worked with Degrassi, if I'm even saying that right, so that makes sense. Nat says Cassidy reminded you of Emma Roberts. Yeah, pretty much. She needed to go. Tyler says when Jen switched good then bad, it was definitely like Kieran from Scream. I got those vibes too. R. Espinosa loves seeing other actors come back from last season. Yes, I like that. I like having characters come back and play different people. I think that's really cool. Thomas says you hope to see more of the characters in season 3 and 4. Me too. And just another heads up, if you guys are pretty active on Twitter, this is where I interact with all of these people like Paula Brancati. I believe I've talked to her. She played Violet, and like the main people behind the show. Then, you know, if you're interested in speaking to some of them and asking them about season 4 and whatever, they probably can't tell you much. But I've literally been talking to these people for like a year, since season 2. So, and I see them talking to other people too. So you guys should definitely follow them and, you know, make sure you're looking at their tweets, because that's how I found out like season 3 was happening, etc. Ralph says the teacher, Kaylee, was targeted because she did not approve of the mom's same-sex marriage. I don't even remember that. Really? Seriously? I don't remember that. Like, wow. Okay, that makes total sense now. I knew that, like, Dan had a big problem with anyone who wasn't white, basically. Obviously, he had like the white power website, but that makes sense to me why they wanted to kill her then. I just thought it was because, like, well, they didn't feel like she helped their mom, you know. Tyler says the teacher was in Being Erica and Aaron Martin wrote some of those episodes. Okay, that's really cool. But, you know, it's always cool when you can get on social media and interact with, like, the people on a show that you love and the people who were writing these episodes and, like, putting this show together. Like, you know, I just have such respect for people who can make something like this happen. And, you know, and everyone's going to critique every piece of art that comes out, whether it's a show or a movie or whatever. But can you imagine how much goes into, like, putting those episodes together, trying to figure out a whole plot line and who's going to be the killer and how we're going to, you know, disguise it so it's not super obvious for the audience. Like, that's someone who's very intelligent, or a group of people. That's awesome, you know? So much respect for them. But again, thank you guys so much for being here. This was so much fun, and I'm glad you guys liked it. Again, if you didn't like it and you want to leave me a comment about what you didn't like, that's totally fine. It doesn't offend me. But if you want to leave a comment after we're no longer live, you can do that too. I know I'm saying your name wrong, Lavere. The thing with people not caring about dead bodies and filming with their phones is realistic. They had a lot of that, right? Well, have you ever, I don't know, like, I live in the US, obviously, and I've seen, like, a lot of bad car accidents, and I notice people slow down and get their phones out and take pictures or film or whatever. Now, I don't think it's because they're, like, laughing or happy that someone died or was seriously injured. It's just, like, the curiosity. Like, they just want to, I don't know. I don't know why they take pictures and film it, but I've definitely seen that. So, you know, this almost made it seem like people were reveling in the fact that, like, a man's head was on top of the car. Being Darius says you're just confused on why they didn't kill Angel and Dan like they did everyone else. And I think they didn't because they wanted Dan to have some character development and they wanted him to overcome some of his prejudice, which he did. Because, you know, he was working in tandem, like teamwork with Angel by the end. And, you know, it was almost like he had a new respect for Sadia, people he had just, like, vilified and just made so much fun of and was just terrible to. And I think they used him as an example that people can change. I don't know if people like him can change, but I hope it doesn't take a serial killer to do that. But, you know, I think that was the point of Dan. They were trying to use his character. My thoughts on Kit. Oh, he was annoying. I don't really care that he died. And we know that who killed him was like that other random crazy man. I just don't care that he died, you know, whatever. In the context of this show, in real life, like, no one deserves to be murdered within this show, whatever. I thought he was super annoying. And he seemed to, like, have little care for anybody. He was all about himself, you know. Nat says, you think they mean why Jen and Connor didn't kill them when they had killed everyone else. Okay, so that's a good question. I think there was some sort of, no, I know what they thought. They thought that Dan and Angel were going to kill each other. And they did kind of have a fight and everything. That's what I thought. And I think if they didn't kill each other, since that was like the place where he was burning all the bodies, he would just come down there and kill them. But I think they thought, especially by sewing them together, like they thought they would take care of themselves. But they didn't. They had a character development here. They turned around. They worked it out. And Dan wanted Angel to live. You know, he would have lived if he hadn't killed Connor in that way. That's my thoughts on that. Because they knew how terrible Dan was, you know, and that he would, he hated everyone who wasn't white. So, and they did get into a fight, and it did almost go that way, you know. Ralph says the teacher was complaining in the hallway about the same sex. Okay, sort of remembering that now. Well, hello. She should not have been saying that kind of stuff. Again, doesn't mean you should be murdered, but now that makes sense within the show why she was killed. I get that now. They brutally killed her too. But anyway, of course, I will be dying to know when a season 4 is going to happen. If that happens, I hope it does. I don't think that they are done with this. I think, the people behind the show would have tweeted like this was the final season if that was their own idea to end it here. So I'm hoping we'll have a season 4. I don't know how many seasons we can have of this. I mean, I think we can keep going because it's always a different story. But, I feel like a lot of times with horror shows, they don't go on forever and ever and ever. But I would be happy with that because I just feel like there's not a lot of stuff on right now that I'm obsessed with and that I love. As I'm saying that, I'm trying to think if I've watched anything that I really loved lately that I just didn't do like shows on or videos. But I can't think of anything. I really can't. Yeah, the other teacher was annoying. Plus, wasn't that Kaylee girl on like all the dating apps? She was annoying, right? I was just kind of like, what the heck? This woman's annoying. All the teachers were annoying. I don't know. But anyway, if there is a new show that you have seen and you would like me to cover that's kind of like in this genre, please let me know. Every time I say this, someone will tell me to watch like Game of Thrones or something, which obviously I never really watched that. But I'm not going to watch stuff that's been out for like 5 or 6 seasons. It's like no offense to any of you, and it's probably, I'm sure, great, but like I just don't have the time to devote to something that's been out there for a really long time. Brightburn I haven't heard of. Is that on Netflix? And I know there's been several series that people have mentioned, but they're like 4 and 5 seasons deep, and I just don't have time to get to it, I always also watch this show called Younger, which I don't do videos on, and it's totally lighthearted and not in this genre, and it's coming back next month too. So a lot of good stuff is coming back, and that makes me really happy. Oh, it's a movie. Good. Then I will check that out because no commitment there. Like I can watch the movie and be good with it. That makes me happy. I don't have to watch like 75 seasons. Okay. Where can I find that? Or is that like a new movie? And is it like a horror? Because, hey, I like that. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. Again, you can also reach me on Twitter. It's at Kelly_TV. If you have like questions about other shows or questions about stuff I'm covering in the future, or you want to talk more about slasher, that's totally fine. Killing Eve, I'm sure I've missed the boat on that. Is that still going on? I know it's been on for a little bit. A lot of people have suggested that. So if it doesn't have like 5 seasons, then I could think about that. Thank you, Devil Dan. I appreciate it. Oh, so it's currently in theaters. Yeah, I'll definitely. I still haven't seen, what is it called? Us? Or it's not, I can't think of it. It's the horror movie. Is it called Us, maybe? I don't know. That looks so good. I need to see that. And Perfectionist, no, I'm not going to watch that. I did try it. I watched the first episode. I hated it. I'm so sorry. I know some people have said it gets better, but I don't miss Pretty Little Liars. I'm so sorry. I really am, but I just don't miss it. Oh, it's short seasons. That's good. Is that on Netflix, Killing Eve? Anyway, thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun. So much fun. And I hope you guys have a great, I think it's nighttime for most of you, I would think, unless you're like in Asia or Australia. But I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will be around more, I promise. Watch Twitter for schedules about that. Okay, yes, Killing Eve. I should check that out. Probably won't check it out this summer because I have so much stuff coming back. But after that, usually there's like a dead period where I have no shows to watch. So thank you, and have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys later. Bye.